Welcome to Drinks in the Library, the only library where drinks aren't just allowed, they are required. I'm your librarian host, Gigi Howard, and each episode I'll be interviewing a guest about a much-loved book that we will be pairing with a drink for you to enjoy along with us or consider for your next book club meetup. As always, stay curious and support your local library. Before we get started, I wanted to let you know, here in Richmond on April 18th, we will be hosting the very first Bon Air Book Festival, celebrating local authors, reading, books, food, fun, music, who knows what else. It's going to be amazing, and I hope we have you there. Also, the keynote for this event is a live Drinks in the Library with award-winning author Meg Medina. I know, I'm so excited. Meg Medina is a Newbery winner, the 2023 through 24 National Ambassador for Young People's Literature. She's amazing and also Richmond's own. We'll be talking about her favorite book, her writing, pairing it all with a drink. I hope to see you there. You can find tickets to the show in the show notes as well as on my social media. I'm going to be posting about it. I'm going to be blowing up your feed talking about this. So I'm so excited. Also, if you can believe it, this is the 100th episode of Drinks in the Library. I honestly cannot believe it. Thank you so much to everyone who's joined me on this journey. It has been a ride, a delight, all of the things. I am so excited to be coming to you this week talking about the book Tender is the Flesh by Agustina Bazterrica. It's a dystopian horror novel where a virus makes all animal meat poisonous, leading to the legalization and industrialization of human cannibalism. Yes, it's quite a story, but it also does what great horror does so well and makes you question the parallels to our real world. And it led to an amazing conversation between myself and author Ashley Peters. Ashley Peters resides in Austin, Texas with her partner Danny and their three mutts, Bentley, Frederick, and Bruno. She is a self-declared bibliophile and lifelong storyteller. She's been crafting tales since childhood, along the way writing for various scholarships and minor publications before fully committing herself to the realm of novel creation. Her debut novel, In Stasis, just came out. I hope you check it out. Also, in honor of our 100th episode, Ashley and I are doing a giveaway. So head on over to Instagram for all the details. The winner of the giveaway will win a signed copy of Ashley's book In Stasis, as well as a copy of Tender is the Flesh. All right, we hope you join us there. Our drink this week was a Blackberry Margarita. It is very dark. It is very red. It's very delicious. And I'll let you think about the book and why we picked that drink. Okay, I think I've given you all the information I possibly can. Thank you again so much. All right, let's get to it. Awesome. Ashley, I'm so excited to be here with you today.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited too.
Yes. So you are in Texas?
Yes, in Austin.
Okay. How's the weather there right now?
Right now it's like 80. Well, this week it's been freakishly beautiful, so I will take it because we were having like 30s, and I
Yeah.
know the rest of the country is colder, but we don't like that. So I want it to be
No.
warm.
Yeah, I know. I am like, because I live in Richmond. We get winter. We definitely get winter. We definitely get snow. But like, we have gotten so much snow. Like, we snowed again yesterday, and I'm like, everybody is done. We don't. It feels like New York kind of craziness. But anyway, hopefully it calms down a little bit. So I want to dive right into it. You are bringing to us Tender is the Flesh, and it's by Augustina Baz. How do you?
So
Bazterrica.
I always say Bazterrica, but
Okay.
Bazterrica, she can correct us.
Yeah. I hope if she's listening, please write us and
Yeah.
correct us. Okay. And so this book, I think for anybody who like you want a conversation starter, that is Tender is the Flesh. First, I want to start off like, When did you read this book? Who were you? What was its impact on you at the time?
So I read this book a little over a year ago. I had heard a lot about it, a lot of hype about it. I think it was like on the list for me to read eventually. When I read it, I don't really know what I expected going into it because honestly, sometimes when books or movies are hyped up so much, I'm kind of like, we'll see if it holds up to the hype. It does. It really does hold up to the hype. I think for me, it was interesting because at that point in my life, I was still like, because we've only been in Austin for 3 years. We were still like finding friends and community. And now a lot of my friends in the community that I've found, there's overlap where it comes to like conversation because a lot of them are either bookish people or they have thoughts about this book. Definitely talks about like kind of the greed of like capitalism and how people get harmed and damages in the process and things like that. So there's just like overlaps with the community that I am now in where this would be like a great discussion point book. Whereas at that time, it resonated a lot with me. But I'm like, who do I talk to about this book? I'm like, please, somebody else read this book because I want to talk to you about this book.
Did you find anybody? I mean,
Yeah.
here you've got me today at Captive Audience.
I definitely found people who I think definitely click with this book. It was interesting because I love horror movies, but I've never previously read like a lot of horror books, at least. And in America, I've heard her speak before. And in America, we categorize all of her fiction as horror fiction.
Mhm.
The rest of the world doesn't always, maybe sometimes they'll just be like, oh, it's climate fiction, or it's always like new fiction, like general fiction.
Mhm.
So whenever I'm talking to people to try to get them to read this book, I'm like, it is horror, but not necessarily like how you think.
Right.
And there's other things where I think some people it's a hard read for them. Other ones, I don't know, depending on how far down the rabbit hole you are on like I don't know, factory farming and things like that. You're like, oh well, okay, yeah, I already see the parallels.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely I read something somebody called it splatter punk horror.
Yeah,
Have you heard that before?
yeah, I've heard that before.
So instead of it being like, horror where this is very out in the
Yes.
open what is going on. And I think that's like a good moment to bring up what is going on in this story.
This is set in a world where the government tells you there's this virus. It's made it to where meat, like animal meat, is going to be toxic to consume. You can no longer consume it. So the world pivots to breeding, raising, and eating humans. Our main character, Marcos, he used to work in a slaughterhouse that his dad had owned. And so for him, it's like job wise, like a very convenient transition.
Mhm.
And in that, there's one of their suppliers who basically brings them people. He keeps messing up. Something's wrong with the order, with like the head count and like the gender and like these other specifications. So he gifts our main character a female specimen because people will like have their own specimens at home if they can afford that. They're supposed to, have like paperwork and all the things, but he just gets gifted this woman and that really complicates things for him because the longer he is around this woman who he's originally keeping in the barn, it just makes it messy for him to where he kind of starts to second guess this world they're living in, what they're doing. He already is kind of an interesting character because he doesn't eat meat. He is married. His wife's name's Cecilia, but she is living with her mom because they had a child who they had lost, and that caused a lot of friction and fracture in the relationship. But from that moment, it made it to where he was like, okay, well, I'm not going to eat meat. I'm not going to eat
Mhm.
people. But then the fact that now he has this woman who he does end up naming, it makes it really complicated for him living in this world.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Like there's so much to talk about with this story because he works in a factory where they breed humans. I mean, it's horror. That's the horror, right?
Mhm.
So, and I think there's like a lot of world building there as well. I mean, do you want to talk a little bit about what the factory is like?
Yeah, so the factory where he's at, basically they receive specimens. There is, I think, like a different factory that like does the breeding and raising, and then they get brought there. So if you think of like modern day slaughterhouses for like
Mhm.
cattle, they're bred and raised on the farm or wherever, and then they're brought to the slaughterhouse. So same type of setup with this plant that he works at, where they have an intake, and then they have we'll like call it like the slaughter line of what that looks like, and then breaking down the body for meat parts, for like lower cut meats, what gets shipped out, organs, like the whole works of it.
Mhm.
I thought it was really interesting, this entire book, because, so I guess big disclaimer, I'm vegan.
Okay.
um
I was
so
going we were gonna talk about it,
yeah.
yeah.
So I'm vegan. I think this book's super interesting when I talk to either other vegans or non-vegans,
Yeah.
because as I'm reading it, I'm like, there's so many different industries that involve animals,
Mhm.
that the way they go about it, but being humans instead of animals, is done so spot on, so well.
Mhm.
I've talked with people about the slaughterhouse plant that he works at, and for them reading it, they were like, "Oh my gosh, this is so visceral. It was so hard to read." And I'm reading it and I'm like, this is spot on as to
Yeah.
how things are processed,
Mhm.
but it's definitely, it like holds nothing back kind of a thing. Like it's very just direct.
Mhm.
And he's kind of numb to it, because I think my take is he doesn't love that he's doing this job, but his dad also has dementia, and they pay for his like very expensive nursing home. So he's kind of like, well, I have to do this. I have to
Yeah.
put food on the table. I'm good at this, so I'll
Yeah.
keep doing this.
Well, and I wanted to bring up, do you wanna tell us why the nursing home is so expensive? What they would do? Because don't they, like, older people, you
Yes,
have to pay extra money so that your parents, if they have
they'll get
dementia,
eaten.
they'll get eaten.
Like basically everyone in this world has become some part of the food supply. And yeah, so it's this super expensive nursing home. So he doesn't end up like, he actually gets a burial or cremation or something,
Yeah.
which the main character is like very adamant about. Like he has feelings about that, because there's also scavengers who are just trying to get meat of any variety. So it makes it, yeah, like I think it's amazing how this book is such like a small book, but it
Mhm.
packs such a punch, which like touching on everything.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and okay, so full disclosure, I do eat meat. I was a vegetarian. I have been a vegetarian for about 5 years in my life, so, like, I have a lot of complicated
Yeah.
feelings about it. Like, we go to Wegmans, and there's all the meat there, and da 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 da, and it's just like, how what kind of mental calculus are we doing every single day that makes it okay for this? And I don't know, like I said, I have complicated feelings about it, but
Yeah. Well, and they touch on that too, where they have the butcher shop and everything's put out and presented, and it's, I can't remember if I can't remember if she uses the word or I'm using the word, but like how it's sterilized, it's made
Mhm.
pretty, so that way it's just, this is this thing in this styrofoam or whatever. Because
Uh-huh.
for me, when things are out of balance, I'm like, okay, I need to get this in balance. How do I do this? And then I'm like, okay, well, for me to align this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so here I am.
I mean, a lot of the reason I ended up starting eating meat again was just, like, practicality
Hmm.
of, like, working out with a personal trainer who's telling me I have to get X amount of protein in, and I had, my kid was, like, a baby, and I
Yeah.
just didn't have I didn't have the time. Anyhow, so maybe my point is, now she's older, maybe I'll go back to more plant-based
Okay,
foods.
I have an athletics documentary I could recommend you off pod.
Oh, okay.
I could just convert you. I'm joking.
Okay. I'm open. It wouldn't be a hard sell. It wouldn't be a hard sell. Because I was, like, thinking about this story a little bit. I think it's definitely, like, a parallel to what we see and what we do, and yeah, and then thinking about pets, so they had to kill all their pets
Yeah,
too.
yeah. They had to kill their pets because the concern was that the animal could be a carrier of this virus. And then if you get bit, then they're going to have to kill you. So,
Mhm.
yeah, one day the whole government's just, hey, everyone, you can't eat meat, and you also have to kill all your pets. I would have, I don't know, been going in hiding or something. Like, I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I don't care. Dogs just staying with me.
I
So
know. You mentioned you have 3 dogs.
yeah,
I
I
mean,
have 3 dogs. I mean, just me, I'd be like, "No, I'll risk it." Like, they'll just be indoor dogs for forever now, but
uh-huh.
I'll move somewhere else. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, everyone agreed basically to where now, like, no one has them. All of the zoo animals, like, every basically in captivity animal was, like, terminated,
Yeah.
and then they don't really mention anything about, like, wild animals except for birds, because those still exist, but people have a horrible fear of birds in this book, like, ultra paranoid because they could be carriers, and they think that they're gonna attack you and be, like, ravenous and all these things.
So sorry, I have so many questions. Like, sorry, this book is just like a conversation starter
Yeah.
for sure. Do you believe in the story that the government, they really did believe that animals would kill humans, or do you think it was a control thing that the government was trying to control the population?
So, they allude to that.
Mhm.
I thought it was like an interesting theory that would probably definitely pop up if this was like the real world. But as the book goes on, I don't doubt that, like, I think it very much so could have been a possible thing of like them wanting just to like population control, especially because in this, there's not really like unhoused people. Like
Okay.
everyone has like a house, a job, everyone's accounted for. There's other things that come up that make it to where as the book goes on, you have more and more feelings of, oh, maybe it was like, even if there was like a virus, maybe it wasn't to the degree of what like they said, to where
Mhm.
the animals were going to attack you or something like that. Maybe it was a thing where you couldn't eat meat, but they just went so hard to the other extreme of, okay, we're not going to eat that meat, but we still want it. So let's jump to humans. Like, it's still a big jump.
And I mean, you have to wonder, did, like, they just could not do black bean burgers or
They had not been introduced to seasoning and spices, and they're just like, nope, I can't.
anyway,
Yep,
suspend disbelief a little bit. This is
yep.
what happened in this world for sure. Okay, and talking about the characters a little bit. All right, I keep wanting. His name is not Marcello. His name is
Marcos?
Marcos. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I
I keep
just
shortening it to Marco, and that's why I'm like, trying to Marco, Marco.
so Marcos. Are you pro or against Marcos?
I ultimately against. I think in the beginning, there is some part of me that I'm like, okay, I feel bad for you because you're just trying to take care of, your dad. You clearly you're not like on board with this to where I feel like, oh, it's complicated. But there is a quote from the author saying that apathy is a choice. And I do feel like he is kind of apathetic
Yeah.
until things directly impact him.
Hmm.
And then as the book goes on, he has there's a moment where it's really redeeming and I'm like, "Yes." Like, I'm rooting for you so much. And then other stuff happens to where I end up like again, like not pro Marcos.
He's a very interesting character, but yeah, I mean, you and I talked about before getting started on how spoiler we were going to get to be, and I was like, okay, we need to explain that this woman comes into his life that is, it has been bred for consumption, but I just like for the listeners, like now he has this woman living in his house. Things do not get better from there.
Yeah. He starts around the barn and then starts to like feel feelings for her, and then, yeah,
Hmm.
she gets moved to the house, and it's kind of like you think, "Oh, like a domesticated animal,"
Yeah,
like the transition of, like, how he's treating we'll say, like, people have pigs as pets as well as, like, consumption, so,
yeah.
yeah, he's just little pig came inside, but then there's, just like you said, it gets worse, and I know I've seen people who have read this book advocate, like, pro him in those
Mm.
situations. And
Hmm.
it's always like a weird thing. Like I'm reading and I'm just like, I'm like, ultimately, her life is in his hands. Like it
Right.
can never be like rainbow and sunshine.
Yeah.
He has ultimate power.
And she's basically whatever he wants, she has to do it, right? So it's
Yeah.
not like consent
Yeah.
for her to be
Exactly.
there at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm laughing. I'm so sorry.
I'm also laughing because it's okay. We're talking about this thing and not saying it. So therefore, it sounds just weird and goofy. But when you read it, dear
Yeah.
readers, it will all
Yeah.
make sense.
I wanted to ask you, do you read this is sort of horror. This is a horror
Mhm.
novel. Do you read horror often?
I weirdly think I love horror shows and horror movies,
Mhm.
to where, like, I'll watch, like, American Horror Story and then go to bed, like, no issues with it. Just because I think most of the time, like, that specifically, like, aesthetically, it's beautiful, but oftentimes there's just, like, plot holes or something.
Yeah.
So I don't have an issue with it. But I've never before this really read a ton of horror books.
Okay.
Like, it wasn't going to scare me or it wasn't going to give the same visual effect.
Mhm.
Since reading this, though, I have, like, majorly ticked up my horror genre consumption, and it's definitely kind of finding, like, my niche of what I
Mhm.
love and what I don't. What like, this, I think some people would say is like a body horror because there is a lot of graphic descriptions of things. I don't know for me because I've already gone down the vegan rabbit hole. I don't know if it hit different to where the body horror that's in here didn't affect me like being squeamish or sleeping wise.
Mhm.
But my consumption of horror has definitely ticked up a ton since within the past like probably year and a half.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't I'm not like a horror person, but I'm not a horror person to be clear because I will get nightmares and I did you see that movie Begonia with Emma Stone that came out
Oh.
recently? Oh my gosh. It's very, very good, but I don't even think it's like considered a horror. It's just kind of like suspenseful
Like
and
unsettling.
unsettling. I couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
Anyway, but what I was gonna say is the thing that I really like about horror is that it does call attention to real terrible things that we
Mhm.
experience, and I mean, I think, like, what you're talking about, like, apathy, the, sort of just allowing our society to settle down into this horrible reality and nobody does anything about it. They're just like, "Well, now we're eating each other."
Yeah. Like it's just accepted as the norm.
Yeah.
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 A recent thing put out by Jordan Peele's production company, Monkey Paw Production, talking about how horror and comedy actually have a huge overlap because of how they both can draw attention to world issues and can reframe it in a way where maybe viewers before like just weren't getting the pieces put together, but then when it's put in a different framework, something clicks or they're at least curious enough to dive deeper.
Mhm.
I definitely think for me, like that type of horror where it's like Us or Get Out, I think all of those are like the horror genre, the horror specificity that like I love most.
I want so did we kind of talked on the author a bit. I know she's from Argentina.
Mhm.
Do you know anything else about You said you saw her speak. Did you say that?
Yeah. She came to Austin and I was like, okay, I'm clearing my calendar. Like I have to go see her speak
Yeah.
for her latest book called The Unworthy that came
Okay.
out. So I've read like articles about her. She is Argentinian, I believe in Buenos Aires.
Mhm.
She is vegan, which is funny because when I was reading this book, like there were just certain things where I'm like, there is no way this person who's writing this. I had no idea who she was before this.
Mhm.
There was some specific line, and I wish I could remember the line, where
Mhm.
I was like, hold on, I'm gonna pause and go Google this person. Like, I want to know more. She has this and two other books that are out. The one's a short story collection. But all of her work, I find it so fascinating because it is kind of like a Vonnegut approach where it's not super fluffy with a ton of like lyrical details,
Mhm.
but it still reads just almost like a poetry and you just end up like going through it so fast, like just consuming it so fast. I know that she is a cat person. She posts
Yes.
her cats all the time on social media.
I'm a cat. I also have a cat. I love dogs too.
Yeah.
Cat's my speed.
Yeah. And I know she does a ton, like, working with, like, schools and the writer community, specifically, I think more so, like, in South America where she can actually go and do different, like, workshops and retreats.
Mhm.
But if you ever get a chance to hear her speak, I recommend it, even if maybe this isn't a genre you would think about, because she's just very fun. She's very direct and to the point. I feel like she's, like, a wealth of information.
Yeah. Well, I love that. And so I guess it's important to mention that this is, well, we read it. I read it in English. I'm assuming you
Yeah,
did too.
yeah,
So it was originally written in Spanish. So
yeah,
it is translated.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we love that. We love a translation. We need to have more. authors from around the world represented, especially here in the United States, I think so.
Yeah. And I know she spoke about the translator who worked with her on, I think all three of them, but definitely this one and then The Unworthy. Same translator, but they work so close, like in hand, because of how obviously when you translate things, there can be nuances that are lost. And it was
Mhm.
so important for her that things like weren't. So I know she's discussed about like the ending of this book. There was a certain words that they really poured like hours and hours over to choose like the very specific right word to have the same like emotional impact
Mhm.
as it would in Spanish.
Well, and that's so important. I mean, translators make such a difference. That's awesome, though, that she's so hands-on and involved.
Yeah. I think it's one of my goals. Like my Spanish is not great, but one of my long-term goals would be to read this book in Spanish.
Okay.
I feel like the writing style is direct to where I'm like, okay, maybe I could tackle this one eventually.
My mom speaks German, and she loves to read things in German, and that's not her first language, and she's always just, "You lose so much in the translation." So, anyway, yeah, I agree. You brought us our drink that we're enjoying today, and I love you so you're in Texas, I'm here in Virginia, and also so it's a Blackberry Margarita. I
Yeah.
feel like yours, you read the assignment better than I did. Mine is, like, cute and pink, and yours is, like, actually dark.
I muddled some more blackberries in it because I think when I
Okay.
originally did it, it was like not as super red. And so I was like, okay,
Mhm.
we're just gonna muddle more of those. And but yeah, it's tasty. I know like when I thought about the drink for this, I was like, oh, a Bloody Mary would be so perfect. But I'm
Uh-huh.
not a tomato juice person.
Yeah, no, I love and really, we're recording this in February. I mean, this could be a Halloween
Yeah.
episode, though,
Yeah.
yeah. But people like spooky books all time of the year, for sure. I wanna talk about you and your writing, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so tell us, what's your latest book?
So I just released my debut novel. It's called In
Yay.
Stasis. I actually
Mhm.
do have a copy because my office is filled with everything.
The beautiful
So
cover.
thank you. It's a speculative fiction, dystopian, kind of through topian, which is a new word someone told me, and I was like, "Yep, that's spot on." Survivalist novel.
Okay.
I say it's kind of like Wild meets Parable of the Talents meets Leave the World Behind.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm like
I
somewhere in there.
hang on, so you said through topian.
Someone told me that recently because I was like, "Oh, it's a dystopian."
Mhm,
We're joking because multiple people felt like maybe it's like a cozy dystopian. I'm like, is that a thing? Because there are cozy moments
mhm.
while there's a dystopian, dumpster fire going on around her.
Okay,
Someone said that a throughtopian is when it's a dystopian because you're going through a transition. It's not the
okay.
forever world necessarily, but it's your current existence. So it's more about like resistance and finding community and hope and light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm like, yep, that fits all of these things.
Uh-huh.
Now, it's not the greatest hashtag for people finding it, but I do use it in there because the people who know.
Okay. Yeah, it's giving me, like, March 2020 through
Yeah.
April 2020 vibes.
The main character, Jessie, her and her dog, Janice, are forced to choose to flee to the forest after facing a betrayal when they are living under this newly established authoritarian regime. She had a vacation rental and now it's going to be turned like survival outpost as she's trying to live off grid and learn how to literally survive in the wilderness while also surviving under this new government. And then I always disclaimer the dog is fine. Dog's all good. So nothing happens happening to the dog.
And it also is making me think, so you have 3 dogs.
the
Is one of the dogs
dog.
the dog?
So I'm like, I say it's a combination of all three of them. I do think it's really funny because for whatever reason, when people read it, they always like a lot of people imagine a dog, like the just physical description that's more like one of my dogs versus the other dogs.
Mhm.
And there's not a ton of physical description about this dog besides maybe she's like petting him and referencing like the floofy coat or something, or approximately his size because of things that are going on. But people will spot on and be like, I think it's like a corgi, or maybe it's like a Jack Russell, and our one is a corgi Jack mix. So I'm like,
Aw.
nice. Like somehow it subliminally got in there. But I say it's all three.
Oh. You can't choose a
I
favorite.
can't
You
choose, no.
really can't. I mean, you're just gonna have to keep writing more books, and then each book will have
Great dog.
a different dog. Yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah.
Oh, so wonderful. Okay, so my last question and we're going back to Tender as the Flesh just real quick. Who would you recommend this story for?
I would recommend this story to anyone. I mean, anyone who I think likes dystopian fiction. I think this
Mhm.
is right up like your alley. I think if you like horror that is a conversation starter and maybe about like societal systems, I think it's great for like those individuals. I think if you wanted to start a dialogue with somebody about factory farming, animal consumption, this could be a book where you have them read it and then you can all start a conversation.
Yeah.
I jokingly say I'm gonna have my mom read it for this reason.
Oh,
So
she hasn't read
she hasn't she has
okay.
not read this.
Oh,
No, no.
okay. Yeah, for sure. I love that. And also, I guess same question for your book. Who would you recommend In
Hmm.
Stasis to?
So for Instasis, I recommend it to I mean, obviously anyone who likes the dystopian fiction.
Mhm.
I think anyone who likes like a complicated female character, it's not like tropey in the way of, oh, she's strong. So therefore she's, very muscular and stubborn. Like she's complicated. I think people who need some hope in dark times,
Mhm.
and there's parts that are cozy. So if you're thinking like, oh, well, the world already feels very dystopian. Why would I want to read a dystopian? I think it's going to resonate with you, especially like if you liked the like socio-political commentary or commentary on things like people's attitudes towards women
Mhm.
or, you know, marginalized communities and things like that. It's
Mhm.
definitely written in like a lyrical type of prose. So you're like going to need to love kind of that poetry-ish vibe.
Okay.
It's a bit of a love letter to nature, which I know
Yeah.
again, like it's dystopian, but it's a love letter to nature. And that's I think where that coziness comes from.
Mhm.
So also just people I think who enjoy nature. If you've
Okay.
ever said, I want to just drop off the grid or drop off the face of the earth and go off grid because of society, it'd be literally your book.
I mean, I'm saying that every other day.
Yeah, I'm like, it's escapism. It's literally like what a little part of all of our brains been like, what if I just
Yeah, what if I just left?
what if I just left? Just didn't come back.
Was there anything else that you wanted to hit on about the book or anything we missed that you really wanted to discuss
Um,
before we wrap us up?
I think the only thing is if people are hesitant because they're like, oh no, it's horror, or is it gonna be
Mhm.
gory? Or is it going to be like, I don't know, a big old vegan lecture or something? There is some graphicness.
Mhm.
I don't think any of it was done unintentionally. Like, I think everything that's in there is critical to what is going on. I think sometimes horror movies, for instance, could be like slasher films where they're just doing it gratuitously because
Mhm.
why not? It's not like that. I do think that while like I read this book and that's a big theme I see throughout of it, when you look up her interviews, she actually doesn't talk about that like at all. She talks about the idea of like capitalism and the degradation of like quality and people's well-being or animals' well-being in the face of greed and doesn't actually like any of her interviews talk about, vegan or vegetarian or anything else like that. So it's definitely I pull that from it, but that's why I'm always curious to talk to people who aren't because they don't necessarily see that in there. So I think it's worth, even if you're hesitant, I think it's worth giving it a read.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I think it's also like the world building, the writing style, all of those things are excellent and
Mhm.
definitely add to the story too. So, okay, Ashley, before we wrap up, where can people find you?
So on Instagram, it is Ashley, ASHLEY _Peters _author. And then my author website is just ashleypetersauthor.com.
Awesome. Well, this has been lovely. I also was like a little bit like, oh, we're talking about cannibalism, but honestly, it's so fun. Well, fun, not fun,
Not more.
interesting. Yeah, it's interesting for sure. And yeah, I loved it. So thank you so much for joining me. This has been great.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yay. Okay. Thank you for spending some time with me and my guests for an episode of Drinks in the Library. For more information about the show, you can find us on Instagram at Drinks in the Library, on the World Wide Web, drinksinthelibrary.com, or shoot me an email at drinkspod@gmail.com. Until next time, cheers.